Warning. The facts you are about to hear are based off 2 hours of researching the pros and cons of history's heroes and most controversial figures. This is Pros and Conquerors, the bad boys of history.
The world is upside down once again. We're pouring blood on statues. Just exactly what got us started in this. We see statues getting poured blood on, getting spray painted, getting torn down, and we say, what did that guy do? What did that guy do to get torn down? What did that guy do to get built up in the first place? This is Pros and Conquerors, the bad boys of history. I'm James Jam Easy Cummins. I'm here once again with my co-host, Colin Cummings.
Hi. At Colin's process.
So if you're Canadian or been watching the news, you would know that recently another bad boy of history is getting held his feet to the fire.
This is our bread and butter, this stuff.
This is the one that, and this is good because, okay, so who we're talking about today is last name Ryerson. I'll tell you his first name in a second because Ryerson.
Yeah, you wouldn't even tell me. I wouldn't even look over there.
First thing I heard is Ryerson's thinking about changing their name. Now Ryerson to me has just been a school. I didn't even know it was based off a guy. I didn't know. I thought Ryerson was just like a name of a school.
Yeah, for everybody in the U.S. because we're loved in Washington and Texas. Ryerson is a university that we have. I think it's just a university. Is it a street too?
Ryerson's not just a university; it's a city. There's a Ryerson, Ontario.
Oh shit!
Yeah, man, they got statues of him, plaques of him, busts of him. And they put your head
Yeah.
So this guy was honored. Like people had a lot of respect for him. Well, why? Who was Ryerson, anyways? To me, all Ryerson was a school that rejected me twice when I applied. Once for social, once for like a general BA, and then once for trying to get into their media program, and they said no.
I also ventured into I looked into the media program, and I didn't even bother applying. I was like, this is too much money. This is too much. I don't have this education.
Yeah. So yeah, who you have no idea who he was either, right?
No, I've always just known it as a school where, people think they're better than other people. Really? Yeah. That's how I see people who go to Ryerson. They think they're a little better than people who go to York and UFT. I think they're a little better.
Yeah, if you can hold a fork, you can go to York.
Yeah. Is that what they say?
That's what they say.
Yo.
And I did get into York.
Of course you did.
I didn't go though. I was like, fuck York.
Wow.
For idiots.
Wow.
No. I just wanted to go away a little. I'm like, if I'm not going to, because Ryerson was like where a couple of my friends were. I'm like, if I'm not going to go to Ryerson, I'll go away.
Main character in the Notebook went to York University. What up? Rachel.
Yeah. I heard she gave there was this comedian that I saw at Yuck Yucks that said that she gave his friend a hand job in class. At York. So that's interesting.
At York.
Like in class. Yeah.
For real?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man. That happened to me one time. Not to completion, but I was in summer school math class and this girl started.
Rachel?
Not Rachel.
Oh, no?
This girl, a Spanish girl. I won't even say her name, but she's a nice girl. You know what I mean? She put her hand down my pants, started playing with my dick in class. Wow. And my buddy came up and he started talking to me. And I just started laughing so hard. I'm like, this girl has her hand down my pants right now playing with my dick. And my guy's trying to talk to me about NHL, 2K, whatever. You know what I mean? He came up to me to talk about video games. And I started laughing and he started laughing because he knew something was up. And we talked about it later.
That's so funny. He was still at one point in childhood and you were at the discovery point. You were like,
it was summer school, grade 10.
We're not going to be talking about video games anymore, sir.
Oh, no, we will. We will. Just not right that second. Anyways. But yeah, let's get back to the task at hand. Ryerson. First name, Egerton.
Egerton?
Yo, Egerton. Why'd you do that, bro?
Egerton. That's a weird name.
Yeah. There's not too many great Egertons in history. This might be the only one I've ever heard of.
Listen, if you're saying his name's Egerton, then there's probably a lot of slaves in this episode. I'm just going to say it. That sounds like a slave owner name. Egerton? That sounds like way back.
Egerton and his Negertons? Neg. I said N-E-G, guys. Don't worry. I play it safe. Play it all by the book.
Egerton. Might as well call him Negerton with all the Negroes he has on his property.
But no, he wasn't about slavery. He was. For those of you that have heard, he was instrumental in destroying the native community. Let's say that.
Oh,
he was the architect of residential schools. Now, when I heard that, I'm like, the architect? What did he just draw the blueprints? Like, what are you guys getting mad at the builder? But they meant the metaphorical architect.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know this. I didn't know any of this. That's fucked.
Oh, you don't know shit about this guy?
No, I thought for sure it was like the regular, he's racist, slave owner, and
no.
need to cancel him.
215 dead bodies were children's bodies were found dug up under residential schools recently. Did you know that?
Fuck.
You haven't been in the news at all. Okay.
Nah,
so that happened.
Grand Bend.
So apparently last year people started coming for Ryerson a little bit during like George Floyd, Black Lives Matter. Let's tear down every white person that had ever did anything bad, right?
Yeah.
He blood on him then, but then now again because the 215 kids' dead bodies were dug up, and then they're like, "Yo, let's fuck that residential school guy again." So now people are coming harder for Ryerson, and that's why we're doing an episode on him on Pros and Conquerors, the Bad Boys of History, the Egerton Ryerson episode.
That's great. About the kids, like they were under school. Why were they all killed? Like all native kids. I'm assuming they're all native kids.
Yeah. They are, and why were they all killed? Why were a lot of them abused? Why were they molested? People just treated native kids like shit, and
wow,
he wasn't working at the schools, but he was the one that designed them. We'll get into it. That's fucked. Ryerson, he was born in Ontario. His family had fought for the British side of the Revolutionary War in America, and then when America won, they came up to Canada. Because they fought for the British side, like the Crown awarded them 2,500 acres of Indigenous land. Here you go. Take that shit.
Fuck. Really?
Yeah. So
after losing,
hey, they tried.
They
did a good job. They must have been respected. Anyway, so he was raised to be very loyal to the British and to the Christian religion. Like that was like ingrained in him. He's like we're about that crown and we're about that Christianity.
Wow. That
crown and the cross.
Idiot.
So that's how he's raised. At 18, he joined the Methodist Circuit Riders, a Christian militia group. Yeah. So they would ride around and convert people.
Ride around? What were they in? Like
on horses.
Horse and buggy?
Yeah.
Like 2-wheel buggies, like they were motorcycles?
Yeah. So he worked as a missionary and spread Christianity among the Chippewas. He saw conversion as a way to assimilate those that really bought and those that really bought in. He actually at this time when he was on the come up, his 20s, his 30s, he was trying to make natives Christian, but he wasn't hateful towards them or anything. Like if you converted, he was like, yo, this guy gets it.
Yeah.
And he tried to give some native guys some pretty high ranking positions in government. Like he tried to give one guy superintendent of Methodist missions. Like he's like, you want to be, you're down with this Christianity shit? Let me make you an important guy or whatever.
Yeah.
But the higher ups weren't down with it. So
really?
He was actually pretty cool with the natives at this time. He got in there. He was trying to convert them. He built them churches, schools, and houses on their communities, not sending them away. At this time, this is before residential schools.
Yeah,
it was in their community, so it was really it was a good start. Let's say.
Yeah, he started out with good intentions.
Yeah,
as most of them probably do.
Yeah, and at that time, the schools that he built there were actually pretty good. They taught in English and Ojibwe, and they used this thing called the Pastaluzzi method, which is what Montessori schools use.
Really?
So it's a really high end way of teaching kids, and it was an educational experiment. It was going good, and really, if that's how they continued to teach on native communities instead of making residential schools, who knows how different Canada would have been at this point.
It would have got taken over. That's probably why they stopped. They were like, these jungle people are getting quite strong and they're getting quite smart. This is not good for us.
You think that's why, eh? Just to look at the Pestalozzi thing for a second.
Because they're taking on to this Christianity thing. These are going to be full-blooded white men in a minute.
The teaching of numbers based on a child's previous knowledge, it then moves the most simplest concept onto more. The utilization of concrete materials so that children can practice exercises like numerical tables.
Jesus.
The teaching of language, learning first the sound of the words and their union in phrases. Anyways, Montessori schools, all I know is you have to pay a lot to go to them, and it's right now that's some high-end teaching, and basically in the 1800s, this is what he got started on in the native communities to get them to learn like a white man.
Well, I was gonna say this is actually how they learn. Like from what you just described, that's how a native tribe would learn. Because it would only be how much you know. It would only be the sounds of the words because they didn't write shit down.
Yeah.
It's actually
And like I said, they taught in both languages, so it wasn't like at that point it wasn't ripping away their culture. They're still like, okay, they still have to learn in their own way. So they're like you said, like they're learning a more tribal way, and keeping some of their language in it. Now, why were residential schools created if that was going good? And your thing was they were getting too strong. But what actually I learned was, okay, so during this time, it was the 1800s, Europeans were coming over, so they still wanted to get more native land, obviously.
Yeah,
like that's part of it. So
they needed it.
The crown was taking away natives' land to make room for settlements. Now, this is places where Egerton had helped them build schools, houses, cleared farmland, and now they're having to move. Like he's like, yo, I'm trying to make them like us. Like we're building it here. So the reasoning they gave him was they're not adapting quick enough. He's like, you're not making them settlers. You're not making them European settlers quick enough. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're still looking like some natives. You know what I mean? They're still acting like some natives. And
can we ask Mr. Ryerson how many he's raped? Is there any rape happening? We can't change them over until we rape.
Wow.
This is how it works.
Yeah.
Please.
So
this is straight from the Queen.
In 1836, Ryerson went to England and he asked to overturn their land surrenders. He was on the side of natives should have their land. He's like, we're making some of them Christian. They're learning in schools,
and especially
they're learning to farm our way.
If they're Christian, he probably had the thing like if they're Christian, then like they deserve everything that we get because they're like of God and blah, blah, blah. That
was his only loyalty, right?
Yeah.
Right, his main loyalty.
Yeah.
So he wanted natives to keep their land, and he had an idea. He had this crazy idea for how he could assimilate them quicker. Residential schools.
Oh, that was it.
So,
what did they do in the residential schools that was so different? Isn't it just fucked with it?
That's where horrific shit comes in.
Yeah, right. Because that's where they take away the language. They take away everything that's them.
Exactly. So instead of teaching them in this way, like this high end Montessori way, this letting them still learn in their own language way, breaking things down for them in their own way. Now it was about to change because he's like, they're not becoming European settlers quick enough. We have to do something quick. So in theory, his reasoning for residential schools was to give natives a chance to keep their land.
Yeah.
His whole thing was, let's give them a chance. I want you to overturn their land. Give me a chance to set this up.
Yeah.
So they made him superintendent of education, not just for natives, but in all of Canada.
Really?
Yeah. So
holy fuck.
So, but his idea for residential schools is what really left his mark, because obviously that turned out pretty fucked up. And at first, like the community that he was working with, Ojibwe, they were on board with it, thinking it was going to be like high school. Like these are going to be where the old, like they're going to still learn when they're young at home, and then they're going to go away to like a boarding school kind of thing. That was the original idea. Now, when they realize that they're going to be taking children away that are like 4 to 8 years old, they're like, fuck that. This is crazy. Like, obviously they're going to be against that. Like, that's not, you shouldn't be sending a kid away like that.
Exactly. Which people do still, like with boarding schools and shit. It's so weird.
Really? That young?
Yeah, really young.
Oh.
Like sometimes, like 6 years old.
Damn.
Can you imagine?
So his thing was, he said Christian scriptures were the only source of religion and morality, and North American Indians cannot be civilized without Christian teachings.
Of course.
So that was like his thing. Like his loyalty was so much to Christianity that he's like, okay, so they're not becoming European settlers enough, like quick enough. Like it's because not enough of them are showing up to church. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what he's like. His main thing was that. So now, instead of teaching them the way they were before, now he recommended a 10 to 16 hour schedule of labor and learning to produce farmers and laborers.
Jesus.
Like that's what their whole thing was, to make.
See, it went from them being educated to them just pumping out work.
Exactly. Yeah. He's like, this is what you want, Crown, for them to keep their land, like, because basically they were making farmland, but they weren't farming the way Europeans were. So like if the English looked at that, they'd be like, they're wasting the land. They want to keep that land, but they're not farming on it the way we would. So we might as well take it and put them on shittier places, which is what they did.
Yeah, exactly. But in actuality, their way of doing it's way better, because it lives with nature. It's like they don't do pens for like cattle. They'll just be like, that's where the cattle are, and just leave them there, and we just watch where they go. We know where they go, and we'll just take one when we want one. That's what they do. They're like, we know it's going to be over there at this time. We know they run over there. We know they run over there.
But they're not like mass producing shit.
Yeah, but they don't like keep them in a thing. They're like, they go there. Yeah. We know this plant grows here, so we take it from here.
Take what we need when we need it.
Exactly.
Not mass produce stuff so that we can distribute it all over.
Exactly.
So yeah, and like you said, he didn't want them to get too smart. He warned that they shouldn't spend money on advanced education. Like, just learn how to be a farmer, learn how to be a laborer.
Yeah.
Don't try and get too smart.
Still the motto of Canada today. Yeah. Don't get too smart.
So 1836 is when he went over to try and convince them to give natives their land back. Like let's overturn this surrender. I'm going to make residential schools. Residential schools didn't get made until 1882. It was a process. They had to build them. They had to do all the infrastructure. He died in 1880, so he never really fully realized like what they were going to turn into.
Really? Oh, that sucks.
But obviously we know end of the story is natives didn't get their land back. So his efforts obviously died on the cross.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Yep.
Now,
died right on the cross.
Why is he honored anyways? Like, why did people like at the same time? Like I said, he was the superintendent of all education, whatever. So he did create school boards. He made education free. He said poverty should not be a roadblock to education. So those things that he made in Canada are things that got him respect till recently.
Yeah. But it's funny because as soon as you just said that, I'm like, Ryerson's where richer people go. It's not where poor people go. Yeah, of course. Like, no. Poorer people, no offense, everybody, but we go to Seneca because it's easier to get in. It's less money. It's like, $3,500.
And Seneca's named after?
Oh, is it a horrible guy?
No, I think it's named after Native Indians. I think there's a tribe, Seneca tribe.
Oh, really? Oh,
I think.
That'd be great. I was like, oh, no, not that.
Let me see.
I was like, not this one, too. Yeah, you might be right. I feel like we searched Seneca once, and that shit came up instead of the school shit that we were looking for.
Yeah, a group of indigenous Iroquois-speaking people, native to who historically lived south of Lake Ontario.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Seneca doing big things. See, Seneca knows what's up. See, that's why I always like Seneca. My dad went to Seneca.
So I wonder if Ryerson University will be changed to like Ojibwe University or something.
I can fuck with that.
Oh. I can fuck with that. My aunt's Ojibwe, and
really?
Yeah, really terrible stories about residential schools. Her family.
She went to one.
Her siblings, like, she was a little older, and her siblings all got like split up in them and stuff.
Oh yeah, you told me this. That's fucked. See, and that's this one story. That's holy fuck, and that's like because she found all of them. No.
Yeah, she made it a mission to track down all her siblings like later in life.
And there's probably a bunch who just didn't, like your sister got all fucked up or molested or this or that, or your brother and this, and you can't find any of them.
100%. It's really sad. It's really sad. And that's the thing. Like, so this guy intent was, I want them to have a chance to keep their land. I want them, obviously I want them to be Christian, and like that, all these Christian crusades, Catholic crusades in history have left genocides in their wake, have done a lot of blood on their hands. So always. I'm not saying he was a good guy, but I am saying that like his intent for residential schools was England was telling him they're not assimilating quick enough, and he was like, how can I make them assimilate quicker? So it wasn't totally anti-native. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, I don't know the guy, but when I read through that whole story, and I know what residential schools turned into, and they did turn out to be horrific, and and obviously you're gonna say the guy whose idea that was must have been fucked too. But when you hear that, like, okay, they could have kept doing it the way they were doing it, but then England was taking land, and I guess in his mind was like, okay, maybe I can give them a chance to get their land back if I can make them assimilate quicker. Obviously, we know that didn't work out, and it just ended getting worse and worse. But
because that was never their intention. So it's like, it seems like he was one of those guys where it's like he was sent there first and he's like doing the thing they're supposed to do, but in their mind, like the higher ups, the royal family or whatever, they're like, this is ours. You're supposed to mow this over. Can someone call Mr. Columbus? He's not. Can Mr. Columbus get over there, please? They're like, we just need this to be wiped clean, sir.
On paper, their demands were like, oh, let's try and make them European settlers, but like in the back of their mind, they're like, that's not gonna happen. We're gonna just take their land. But like his marching orders were, try to make them Christian. Go make them farmers.
Yeah, exactly.
And then everyone's all good. Then they're just gonna be part of the community.
And they're probably laughing. They're like, he's gonna try and make these native people European.
These savages. He's gonna try and civilize them.
He's a moron. It was in the phrase. You cannot make Europeans out of native. He's a moron.
Yeah.
We'll kill them when we get there.
So this guy, man, I really thought this was gonna be an open and shut case, and it was for most of the time I was reading. I was like, yeah, this guy just created a system that fucking destroyed native communities.
I think his biggest con was the loyalty to the queen, to the crown. Because obviously this all started because he went back, tried to figure out what they wanted. They probably weren't like, oh, you just need to assimilate them faster. They were probably like, listen, this is what we want. We want them to be workers. We want the European settlers to come and like want for nothing, and we want most of their land because we have so many people coming over.
You want them to have land? Tell them to stop wasting it.
Yeah. Exactly.
How about you figure out how they can stop wasting that fucking land?
Like it was like, yeah, sure, they can have their land. They'll have a smaller portion of it, but we need this much because we have this many people coming over in the next few months, and my estate alone is going to be 1,000 acres. So you have to figure this out, okay?
Yeah.
And that's what it was, for sure. They wanted to push them into smaller areas so they could do what they fucking have now. Like,
yeah, man.
Obviously. Like, that was the plan.
Yep. It's a I don't know. This one's like, yeah, I really thought this one was going to be one of our most, like, it is a short episode. It is quick because like there's not a ton of the stuff this guy did other than this. Yeah. But I really thought it was going to be more open and shut because I'm like, obviously whoever came up with residential schools is a piece of shit. But to hear that he was pretty much living and working and building in the community for, 30 years before residential schools actually became a reality. Yeah. And at that time, he did make them like schools that were more his original idea, like that Pelastozzi method or whatever, the one that Montessori schools use. Say at that time they weren't fucking sending a bunch of settlers over and taking all this land, and they gave them another 20 years to do that and actually have these kids grow up in that system where they're living on their own land, they're learning in their own way, a more native friendly way than ripping them away and making them farmers and laborers and just trying to force European values on them. Who knows what would have happened? Who knows how different Canada would have been?
Most Europeans wouldn't be here. That's what would happen, because you would have had a population of native people who are native to the land, who are now as smart as the people who are coming, and they'd be like, you're not just taking everything. Like, this is our land. We're now that we've learned so much, we're going to house you here, and you're going to pay us, because this is our land.
I built that house,
and also we've learned that you have a monarchy, and we're establishing one as well, and now you have to, like, you know what I mean? They would just be too educated. They would be on par with them. That's why they were like, yo, you are doing something a little crazy, and you're keeping their ways around, which they're always going to be able to see. And I always
they're still living with their elders, learning from their elders.
And what I was talking about is the history. If you take away the history, then it's easier for all this shit to ride through. If you still have your active history and their language and everything, they'll never be able to take over the way they want to take over. That's why they take away people's history. That's why they take away black people, everybody's history. That's why they try and like get rid of history, because once you have it, it's like you know how things should be.
Damn.
Once you have it,
Yeah, that's true, and it's I wonder how this guy would have thought of what they turned out like, because he died 2 years into it, and he was probably. I don't think he was doing like hands-on work when he was about to die, really. Like, so what do you think? What do you think?
I think he'd be horrified. I think he'd be horrified just because he'd be like, yo, they're Christians. Like, you're doing this to Christians? Like, he'd be like, yo, because I don't know how Christianity works exactly, right? But like, you don't harm people who have taken God or Jesus Christ as their savior. You don't do that to them. So I think he'd be fucked up over that. He'd be like, we just got these guys to accept Christ, and now you're doing this. He'd be a little fucked up over it, I think.
Damn. Yeah, and then I wonder, the people that pour blood on his statues and write genocide and all this stuff on him, like how much research did they do?
They don't know any of this.
100%. They just saw he's the architect of residential schools, and that was enough to be like,
bro, that's it. It's just like it's just like that clip you posted where you're talking about Wagwan with the Wagwan and niggers and babies and stuff like that, right? So it's like all people see is the sensationalization of the school and the fucking kids that are dead under there.
Oh yeah, of course.
Nobody knows how they died, but we're always going to assume the worst because they're kids and what could they have done to be killed.
Man, there's some bad stories, man.
You know what I mean? So obviously right away you're going to jump to that. And whoever is even remotely attached to the concept that had these kids killed, you're going to fucking jump all over them. Like no matter what.
Yeah.
Because of that thing, right? Like our show makes it so we have to look past stuff like that and actually look into the people. But most people don't want to look past anything. They just want to get mad, or they just want to jump on the side. You know, you don't want to possibly position yourself against Native people. You know? Like what if we found out this guy was amazing? We were like, yo, we can't hate this guy. It's a hard thing to have to now all of a sudden grapple with in your brain.
What would be interesting, like, okay, so he died in 1880. So how many generations is that back? You would need somebody that has like a great grandfather that like passed, like say like somebody in the Ojibwe community that actually knew the guy, passed down the word, because like he did get along with natives for a good chunk of his life. Like he was there. They're not trying to take their land. He was literally trying to make them like Christian, yes, but he wasn't trying to take their land. He was saying, okay, yeah, you want to learn in Ojibwe. Like he wasn't trying to take their culture. He wasn't trying to take their land. He was just trying to make them Christian, good Christian,
exactly,
good Christian Ojibwes,
exactly. Which a main thing in Christianity is being welcoming. So it was like he was trying to make them very welcoming to the people who were about to arrive, which makes the most sense. You know, get them ready for these huge amount of people that are going to come and be so different than them, and they would have been ready with his style that he was doing. But they didn't want them to be ready to greet these people eye to eye. You know what I mean? They wanted these people to be ready to work.
And then
they're like, get these guys ready. They're going to be doing labor. They're not going to be learning math and science. They're going to be doing heavy labor.
I want to see if he has any quotes. Let's see.
Quotes.
Also, I had an eye. For who would play him in a movie? Okay, so that's his face, right?
Okay.
And the person that I had immediately come to mind for him, this guy's already dead, unfortunately, but it's an Irish actor. And let's see. Let me show you.
Father Ted.
This guy. That's who I thought should play him. So Father Ted, this is if you want to look up Father Jack from Father Ted, and it's a mean looking face, and it's an ugly looking face, and it's an old looking face. But when you look at Ryerson, I just think he could play him.
But you know who could do it now?
Who?
If it was a movie, just from that picture, you should show me the picture again. I would say, see, you can put what's that guy's name from Hannibal? Anthony Hawken, is that his name? Hawken?
Ooh, okay, yeah.
That would be the guy. He could play him because he could be sweet, he could be really nice, and he can like turn evil like Hannibal. He has that range. He could be anything. And that's what he would be. He'd be somebody who was like living long enough almost to see the villain vision come to fruition, but then he dies. This guy has some long ass quotes.
Yeah, these are long. And I don't know if this is. Is there another? Is there? Because this says Egerton Ryerson Young. Is that a different guy?
Ooh, is it?
I don't want to get on the wrong guy. I tried to find. I want to see what he says about natives because I want to see like where he was coming from and shit. Okay, let's see. At first, long years ago, the Hudson Bays Company officially bitterly opposed the observation of the Sabbath by their boatmen and tripmen. This is a fucking long one. Why did I choose this of all?
This is a paragraph.
Yeah, this is a paragraph. The reason the reason I came to this one is because I saw half-breeds or pagan Indians who pushed on without any day of rest. Years of studying this question. Okay, sorry guys.
Bro,
shit job.
All of his quotes are 6 sentences long.
Yeah, he has no bangers.
Such a Ryerson thing to do is to just make your quotes essays. Such a Ryerson thing to do. That's why I know. That's why we didn't get in.
Wow. Yeah, no short ones. Holy fuck.
We only accept 400-word quotes. If your ideas are not thought out, please don't come to Ryerson.
With all his powers, he set to work, and it was not very long ere he had a large raft made out of the floating logs. As the last spot of land was now being overwhelmed by the flood, and he pitied the animals there were swimming about, he took them on the raft with him. Guys, this sucks.
Look at this guy's just saying poetry. He had no quotes.
Ryerson quotes. How about just Ryerson quotes? Let's see. Images. Psst. No.
You had nothing. This guy didn't say shit.
Yeah, this guy.
Because he was too busy helping Native people, and probably banging a few. Can't deny him. Can't deny it. That's what
Indians.
That's what they did.
I just want something to give us a little more perspective on like what he really thought of natives. But
yeah, see, that's the sad thing about this guy, because it seems like he had a real dedication, and there's not like so much known about him.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, he started residential schools. But also, people have to recognize, bro, he started residential schools under the Queen's command.
Yeah,
I think it was the Queen then.
Yeah, the crown. They say the crown, so it might either way.
They say the crown because they don't want to say the Queen. But it was under the Queen's command that he do this type of shit. It wasn't on his own. Like, he wasn't just like, okay, I got it. I'm gonna go from this to this. You can tell just by the way, out of nowhere, this is how it's gonna be to produce farmers and laborers. You can tell that's 100%.
It's because they said they sent them over there like, we're taking your land. He's like, wait a minute, I'm building something with these guys. Yeah. They're like, well, they're wasting land. So he's like, okay, let me fly over to England, have a face-to-face with you, see if we can work this out. Oh, you need them to learn quicker? Well, there's only one way to do that. Put them in a fucking residential school. Next thing you know, they're getting raped, abused, murdered.
Well,
as kids.
It's because they didn't want them to learn quicker. That's the thing. It's like, you want them to learn quicker. It's like, okay, educate some person that speaks their language, and they only learn in their language. That's the best way for them to learn. They don't want them to learn. They wanted them to just become this. The same way they don't want you and I to become billionaire CEOs who want to like help people. They want you to become a farmer or laborer or something.
Damn.
Like, that's what they want. They've always wanted that.
Damn.
That hasn't changed. It goes from natives. It went from Irish people. Even it's probably still happening to Irish people. Irish people, the natives, black people, everything. They always try to limit the education as much as possible.
Yeah. And it seems like that.
I mean, like, because as soon as you're explaining like residential schools, I always had residential schools were the same way that black kids get taught. Like, all we get taught about slavery is that, or all we get taught is slavery in terms of our own history, and how some president saved all of us, right? Some white president, kind of looks
with
like
a
Jesus.
big hat.
Yeah, with a big hat. He saved us.
Honest Abe.
And that's what we get. And then for Native kids in our school system, all they get taught about is the Métis. And the only reason we learn about the Métis is because that's a nicer story where they actually came together, the French and the natives. That's the only reason we only learn about them.
Sweep this other shit under the rug.
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah, man. No, it's 100% residential schools turned out to be a horrific thing. And I'm just not 100% convinced that Egerton Ryerson wanted them to be a horrific thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my stance on this guy. Like, I would have to, guys, you listen to the opening thing. We do 2 hours of research, the pros and cons of the bad boys of history. You know what I mean? So maybe if I did a third hour of research, I would find out some more convincing evidence of what he really thought. He does have writings of, years of writings, but these are long paragraphs, and I'm just not going to read all that.
But what was I gonna say? What do you know about residential schools? Like what happened? The kids were getting abused in them. Like,
okay, so they finally came to be in 1880. They didn't stop until 1996. They were around for a bit.
Real?
Yep.
Holy fuck.
Yeah, man. No, it was bad. It was bad. And
what the fuck? That's crazy.
It's just like, yeah, man.
I thought you were gonna say like 1940.
No. It's recent.
Fuck.
Yeah, man. And there's
wait, taking kids and bringing them over since wow.
And yeah, so a lot of talk about this recently. So I was listening to the radio and people were calling in with some of their stories, and this one guy was like, that native guy that went to one of the schools, he's saying how a priest, fucked one of the girls, a young girl. She got pregnant. They took the baby and they fucking burned they just threw the baby in the incinerator. The nuns did this. That's the thing. Catholic Church has a lot of blood on their hands in general, but with this residential school stuff, they're trying to make them answer for it. And
they should.
Apparently, okay, so it's no surprise the Catholic Church is into some dirt. They cover up pedophiles when they touch white kids. They cover up, this horrific shit.
They just move them around.
So in Boston, there was a big thing a couple years ago where a lawyer got to the bottom of a bunch of molesting that the Catholic Church did, and apparently there's this secret file. It's called the canon something. Every archbishop in every Catholic community has it. And it's basically all the church cover-ups. And in Boston, when he did it, he had to fight. He went to court so many times saying, we have to release those files. Finally, they did it, and they uncovered all these molesting. So he was on the radio. I heard him, and he's saying that's what Canada needs to fight for right now. They have to get, because the archbishop, he's like yeah, sorry, but he's not giving them any more information. And he's he has the files. He knows who the names of the fucking people that were involved in it, and they might not have the names of every kid, because I don't know if they cared enough about the kids to say we killed this kid, but they would probably have the numbers, we had to do this and that, So
holy fuck.
So in the coming year, we might have that shit uncovered. It's called the canon something file.
That's and crazy. And who's fighting for it?
So right now, there's lawyers in Canada right now, trying to fight to get more information on this stuff.
I would love to know who those people are. That's fucked. That's fucked up.
So
I didn't know 1996. That's in our time. Fuck, man. Fuck.
Yeah, man.
My girl was born 2 years before that. Fucking
yeah,
1994.
Yeah.
Fuck.
That's
Tribe Called Quest was dropping albums, and there was fucking
Tupac was about to die.
What? And there was residential school still? What the fuck? I thought it was such an old thing.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, man.
See, that's what I mean. They got to answer for this shit. And that was just a thing in 1996. This has never stopped, man.
Yeah.
And never stopped.
So Trudeau, I saw him saying Catholic Church needs to apologize for this and stuff. But I'm pretty sure Trudeau's dad was empowered during the time that this stuff was still going on. So he's connected to that shit too. They're all fucked, man. And they're all just trying to point the finger at the other guy.
Fuck. That's terrible, man. I didn't know that.
So Canadian government now says they're going to give $27 million to digging up more of these residential schools, see if there's more bodies under. But here's the thing. When I read that headline, $27 million they're going to give, okay, sounds nice in theory. But I'm that $27 million is definitely going to go into some politician's friend's pocket.
Yeah, they need to stop playing games. Just go dig the bodies up. Stop talking about how much money you're going to give toward. Just do it until it's done. And whatever money that took, that's what it took.
And the more offensive thing, $27 million you're going to give it to go dig up dead bodies. Okay, cool, find that out. But there's native people on reserves right now that don't have clean water today.
Yeah.
So it is necessary to find out these kids' bodies and stuff. But what's more necessary is let's fix stuff that's going on right now. How about put some of that money to fixing stuff in native communities now?
You can do both.
Yeah,
I always say.
But when I saw that number, I'm
yeah,
that number is just a big shiny number. Hey, look at what we're doing. But who's that? Who's digging them up? Exactly. It's gonna be some friend of Justin Trudeau's.
I was gonna say,
you know what I mean?
Who's digging it up? Who owns that company? The guys who are now digging it up.
Yeah.
And how much do they gain or lose from actually finding more bodies?
Yeah.
Because if Trudeau all of a sudden, let's say we find 10,000, and let's say people make that connection, they say your dad was in power. How does that look for him?
Yeah.
It's not in his favor to find more bodies.
Exactly.
It's really not.
So I didn't like when I saw that headline. I'm they're trying to make it seem like they're doing something good, but I could smell the fish on it. It was so fishy.
They could have, like, it's just exactly what you said. If they really were interested in doing good things for us, for natives or anybody, they would just do them. They wouldn't have to throw flashy numbers. They would just come through and be like, hey, we're gonna change this whole thing for you guys. They would just do it.
Yeah,
but they don't. It's like you said. It's all just throwing flashy numbers and shit like that.
Yeah, man. Anyways, so let's get back to the task at hand. What do you think? Should this guy's statues get taken down? Streets get renamed. Schools get renamed.
Fuck, that's a hard one, man. Because
it is. I really thought this one was going to be so much easier because, like with John A. Macdonald, yeah, he had a big role in all this, like treating natives wrong too. But without him, there's no Canada. So at the same time, like I understand having a statue up of him. But Egerton Ryerson, I never even knew that guy existed until recently. I just thought Ryerson was the name of a school. So I'm not attached to him. I'm not attached to him at all. Like if you want to tear him down, I really don't give a fuck. I just think we need to do a little more digging into his real intentions.
Yeah, I think the statues should, like, I think I don't know. It's so hard. I think maybe rename the school, but I think his statue should stay up because at some point his legacy is not just residential schools. Like, as you can see, like, he had a passion for Christianity, for education, wanted those guys to keep their land for the most part.
That's the one part of the story that just because in 1836 you don't fly to England when a bunch of your native, like the native people that he's been living with, working with, trying to build, make into Christians, sure, but also give them pretty good schools at that time. This is before residential schools, 50 years before residential schools, and you don't go to England when you see them getting their land taken away to try and fight for them to get their land back. Like that doesn't make sense if he's a horrible guy who hated them or whatever. You know what I mean? Exactly. So that's the one part that just. It just leaves a little crack in the door open for maybe he wasn't a piece of shit.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a big crack, I think. So I would say, I get it if you want to. I get it if you want to change names and stuff like that. But like I said before, he did it under the request of the person who's on our money.
Yeah, and it's also like so over 100 years, 100 and basically 30 years of residential schools being terrible, horrific things that he wasn't alive for. Yes, he's the architect. He's the one that said we need residential schools to make them assimilate faster. 100%. That was him, and his intention behind it was to hopefully overturn their land getting taken away. Yeah. So make you guys got to assimilate quick. We got to get you that land back. That was his original idea. In theory, that's what his original idea was. Now, what it turned into, it's like. Yeah, so now people are pouring blood on his statues saying, let's tear him down because he's the architect of it. So it's like somebody created something that turned out to be terrible, but they weren't around to operate it.
I was going to say, like, we never give any shit to the guy who created the internet. And he's alive still. He's around. And it turned into a horrible thing. we never blame him for the things we see on the dark web. Yeah. All the buying and purchasing of people and things and ridiculous things that you can get. We never blame him for that. We never blame the person who invented the school system for the way it is. Yeah, I don't know about most of my history because of the school system and the way they do it. Like, I know more about every other history than my own because of the school system. But we don't blame whoever created that.
Yeah, we
don't get down on Jesus because everything we've seen him, like Christianity has
Catholic crusades and everything.
You know what I mean?
He created the system of like, let's go reach out to people he created the system of, if you accept me as your Lord and Savior, you can get into heaven. Yeah. Other people, hundreds of years after him, decided we will kill you if you don't convert. Yeah. We will genocide your community if you don't convert.
We don't blame Jesus.
Technically, Jesus is the architect.
Yeah. We don't blame Jesus.
Damn.
I've never heard anybody blame Jesus.
That's a good example.
Or Allah for what, like, you never hear that.
The architect, Muhammad,
yeah. Sorry,
people.
That's what I meant.
Muhammad is the architect of Islam. Let's say Allah's God, and if somebody kills somebody in the name of Allah, you cannot blame Allah for that. You cannot blame Muhammad for that. No. So it's a fucking sticky one still.
Yeah, man. I would just say like, I get it, but like I think people need to start looking into things more. And that's why we do this, to provide that information. I think if people looked into it more, they wouldn't really throw blood, but they would look at the situation and how torn up it is.
And then maybe if we looked at it for an extra hour or two, we would be the ones throwing blood because we'd find out some stuff that we didn't find out today. So let us know if we're missing some gaping holes in this stuff. That we're gonna hear some quotes of like Egerton Ryerson basically just saying like, yeah, fuck him, kill him, and then we're like, oh, whoops, we missed that part.
In quotes. Yeah,
but
kill him.
But yeah, I would just say look at that trip that he took in 1836, where it was natives getting their land taken away. He didn't want that. He went to try and figure out a solution, and unfortunately, the solution ended up being even worse, and it ruined native communities for hundreds of years. So it does suck that he was the architect of something that turned out so bad.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't get to follow through.
Yeah, man.
That's why you got to follow through on your projects, folks.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're going to follow through on the Bad Boys of History, Pros and Conquerors. Tune in next week. You can find me at jam_easy, and you can find Colin at Colin's Process.
Colin's Process, I'm doing my thing. I haven't been able to do much, man, because I've been fucking in Grand Bend, Ontario.
Yeah.
This
nice
movie. Place
to be, though.
It is. And we're in a beautiful house, so it's cool.
And even though this is pretty current story, it is about history. If you want more current events, check out Wagwan with the Wagwan. That's me and Colin talking about current events. We're supposed to bring on guests for that too, but it's just been us.
Oh yeah, we're supposed to do that.
Originally,
it's hard.
Yeah.
But we should schedule somebody.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in, and check out our other stuff, and peace.
See that? That's how you end it.
Thank you for listening to Pros and Conquerors, the Bad Boys of History. Rate, review, subscribe, and share. And remember to participate on our Instagram and shit and all that good stuff and blah, blah, blah.
Follow us on Instagram.